Ladies and gentlemen, everyone else in between, Ultimate Steve here. Welcome back to another episode of Planet Jam, where we're exploring the World Week Planet Jam, or the Week World Planet Jam. This is the planet pack, and this is Jebediah Kerman II, the son of the original Jebediah Kerman, who, as you know, died on our first flight because I wanted to experience it without looking at so much as the atmospheric characteristics. And I designed this craft. Well, I started designing this craft right after I saw Top Gun Maverick for the first time. So this is taking a little bit of inspiration from the Dark Star. I'll tell you exactly what it's for in a second. Like it's very loose inspiration, but it's inspiration nonetheless. Like I got the idea to do this cool single-person airplane mission after seeing the movie. So I've decided to, having not a lick of originality left in me after all of those exams last week, and everything that still is to come next week. I've decided to call it the Bright Star. So this mission is going to be very, very ambitious. What it's going to do, it's going to be, I tried to make it an SSTO, it didn't end up working. If I tried to make it work for long enough, I could have, but it's an SSTO with drop tanks. So the drop tanks, what we're going to do is we're going to fly to Reticulum, complete the contract we have there to go on a spacewalk and return to Asset Par from a flyby of Reticulum. And we are then going to use the gravity assist inward to Elaan. We timed it, so we should arrive at Reticulum at the Reticulum to Elaan transfer window. So we might be able to get a good gravity assist off of it. I'm not entirely sure. So we're going to land on Elaan. And that's the one part I haven't tested on this, is re-entry from interplanetary into Elaan. So I may have to use some fuel there to slow down, but I think I have enough fuel to do that if I need to. And then we're going to land on Elaan. Maybe drop the drop tank somewhere cool, like doing a cool bombing run or something, I don't know, like they did in Top Gun. And then take off from Elaan and go all the way straight back to Asset Par. And potentially fly by the moon of Elaan. I forget what it's called. It might be Ascios. Scientific research around Ascios. Yeah, so we're going to knock out 4 contracts in one mission, assuming I don't crash. And I'm not sure how strongly I am going to hold myself for that no reverts thing, but I'm at least going to try and hold myself a little bit to it. Now, how is this going to work? Well, we have 4 nuclear engines on board. We've got the main central nuclear ramjet engine, which we tested earlier, which killed Valor. It's a slightly tweak scaled down version of it. Like, I used tweak scale a lot to get the engines the right size for what I needed, what my requirements were. And for slow speeds, we have the direct cycle nuclear turbojet right below it, which is like, it doesn't get going as fast as the ramjet, but it works at very low speed, so we can use it to take off and land with. And we have the 2 slightly tweaked scaled down solid core nuclear rockets for orbital maneuvering. Now, I thought about using liquid core rockets, but they're really expensive and you can't fire and point at the atmosphere. And it would also have kind of taken away from how realistic this mission feels, because this kind of feels like a mostly stock spaceplane. Now, the hard part about this mission is ensuring it won't overheat on takeoff from Elaan, because you get going like 3 point something kilometers per second on takeoff there. It's just ridiculous how close to overheating this whole thing is. So like a lot of this plane's width, length is radiators, and like in the front you have heat shields. Like Jebediah can't even see frontwards out of his window because I had to cover it up with a heat shield. Anyway, so without further ado, we are going to launch the Bright Star. Now, I don't really have favorable launch angles for shooting off retrograde, which is this way for you, from Asset Par. So I think I'm going to get to orbit first and then use the engine for that, because we do have a decent amount of fuel. And this is equipped with a full suite of science experiments. Well, almost full. Anyway, Jebediah, I hope you make your father proud, and hope you don't just die at the end of this runway, because that would be really embarrassing. Okay. That's Action Group 1, the direct cycle nuclear turbojet. We're going to need all the thrust we can get for these takeoffs, so I am going to also activate the nuclear ramjet, just in case, because it is very slow getting off of this runway. We also have yellow timers, so that doesn't help. But here we go. Also, I need to update the game at some point. And if you're asking what happened to, whatchamacallit, Bill or Bob, whoever, it's been like a week or 2 since I had last actually done anything in this save. So, whoever we put in orbit around Windswept, yeah, that's still happening. I just decided to do this first. And sorry it's night, that's just how the transfer windows worked out, because the days on here are super long. Anyway, here we go. We're got takeoff. And finding a big flat spot on Elaan to land and take off from is going to be a pain. But fortunately I have parachutes for that part that I intend to use for landing. Not for takeoff, of course, because you can't use parachutes to take off. The world does not work that way. Alright, so now we have a fairly straightforward ascent from Asite Par. We just need to speed up. Like, if the planets were aligned optimally, I literally could just speed up all the way to like a transfer to reticulum just on atmospheric engines alone. That's how good these engines are. But obviously we can't do that right now because we're not facing the right way. Unless I decide to fly all the way around the planet, which I'm not going to do because that was a very long time. Alright, we are looking fairly good in the speed department. And as you can see, all of our radiators have already started pulling heat from everywhere, even though they don't really need to yet. We've just went supersonic. And the one number we're going to need to take a lot of looking at, we're going to want to look at the thermodynamics section, Kerbal Engineer, and look at the critical thermal percentage. In fact, I'm actually going to edit that. Critical thermal percentage. Critical thermal percentage. And I'm gonna make it red. So I know exactly where to look. Because I've never done that before. Like, I never customized any of the Kerbal Engineer colors at all. But, so the radiators are really good at self-regulating and not overheating. They're just pulling heat from somewhere, so we really don't need to worry about those red temperature gauges. Just anything gets over, like, 89%. Now, what makes this mission super borderline is on ascent from Elaan, we're going to have parts that are nominally, like, on a successful mission, gotta get, like, to 99.5%. At least in testing they did. So, it's gonna be very, very, very slim margins, but that's why we got the Son of Jebediah curve here. Alright, so, it's starting to produce a nasty sound. It's starting to die off in thrust, so I'm probably going to kill this engine. Yep, engine 1 shut down. Engine 2 is now taking the brunt of the load. I'm gonna face prograde to slightly dip down a bit so I can speed up a lot here. And our goal is just going to be to keep our apparatus just barely out of the atmosphere on the other side of the planets. Unless that gets thermally prohibitive. And we're looking on good thrusts. We are still meeting 100% of our atmospheric intake requirements. Oh, and I did go do some science farming in the background, nothing like substantial. I think I just launched like one satellite, and I also transmitted some of the science, like the Gravioli science from Windswept. So that's what I did to get the science to unlock some of these parts. Like the intakes were the big one. Like I needed like the really good supersonic intakes, the shock cone intakes, because I just figured out that it couldn't work without those. And see, there are our first overheating bars. Now, the only really dangerous part that gets overheating on ascent from Asite Par, I found, is the engine itself. For some reason, it does not spontaneously combust on Elaan. But when I did have a very small version of it tweak scale, it did have that issue, so that's weird. Okay, now we're getting critical thermal percentage up to 93%, 94%, so we should start throttling down in a second here, especially because we're like almost at the velocity we need to be at. And our apogee is in space now, so we can fairly safely just pretty much cut the thrust all the way, and just coast the rest of the way, because the engine takes a while to spool down. Like, we are still, well, not anymore, but like, our orbit still kept going up for a while after that. So actually, since it's getting significantly low down, I am going to opt to throttle up just a little bit to put that apparatus a bit higher. Yeah, this is nowhere near to this plane's top speed. And even then, it's not limited by the engine, it's limited by the heat. So, anyway, we're getting fairly close to space now. And then we can think about setting up our transfer to reticulum to get a gravity assist off of it. And that should be a sufficient maneuver I just realized something. We need to get there in one orbit and not two, because I set up the transfer window like that. I knew I did something wrong. So what do we got? So what options do we have? Can we do this in one orbit? Like, is it prohibitive fuel-wise? Seven minutes. Start burn 8 minutes. I'm gonna start a little bit early just because on escape burns you want to start a little bit early so your trajectory gets aligned a little bit better. Usually I've found, and because these engines take a little bit of time to spool up. Now these are tweak scaled down, so they don't have the full thrust of the version, so they will take a while to like burn through their fuel. But yeah, there we are, and we are going through our escape burn, and we can time warp like actually through it now, which is amazing. Whoever coded that in, thank you so much. We love you. Like my favorite feature of KSP Interstellar, the ability to do real-time time warp like burns. Thank you to whoever pointed that out to me, or whenever I found it out, because I didn't know about this for the longest time. Okay, so now let's look at Reticulum, because we're about to get an encounter there. And we just want to graze the sphere of influence. We don't want to like get a full-on gravity assist, because we don't really need a full-on gravity assist. We just want to get our periaptus down to Elaan, and hopefully get an encounter there. Because we didn't actually check to see how good the transfer window we got was. We just know that there is a transfer window. So we might actually have to wait a long time. Like, it might not be as good as I thought it was. But we'll... And there we are. We have an encounter. Okay, so I found a good path. So basically, we are currently on a trajectory to encounter Reticulum. Actually, I'll just demonstrate it by doing it, I think. So, and by the way, this thing is nuclear powered. Like some of the reactors, I'm not sure which ones, but some of them produce power. I just quick saved and it may have crashed the game. Okay, there we are. We're good. Okay, so this thing has its own generators, so you don't have to worry about power, pretty much. And we're going to fly by the Reticulum system and do a maneuver. So the Reticulum system flyby isn't particularly needed very well, much except for the contract. And that's just in one orbit from now, pretty much. So we're going to fly by there, we're going to do a maneuver, and that maneuver will set us up for both an Elaan encounter and an Escaeos gravity assist, which will get us into orbit around Elaan basically free. So, yeah, the commenters, y'all below, you weren't kidding when you said gravity assists are great in this system. I just don't particularly like doing them most of the time, because like a lot of the time I can just slap on 2 more boosters and it'll be a better use of my time. But gravity assists are cool. I just don't like. Time is just a little bit of like lacking right now. So, and then Reticulum to Elaan transfer window. It looks like we only missed that by a little bit because we are about to encounter it fairly soon, and the transfer window time just passed. So we could be a bit sooner for future reference. And there we are. We are in the Reticulum sphere of influence. And where is Reticulum? There we are. I don't know what number of Kerbal Jebediah is. Is it second or because Val was here? Was the Val rescuer here? I think someone flew by this very early on. I don't know. Anyway, so we've got maybe the 3rd Kerbal to ever be in the system. And what we have to do to complete the contract, go on an orbital spacewalk near Reticulum. Now, please say that it's just flybys counting. Note. In orbit. Oh, okay. That's problematic. Okay, so we kind of came here for nothing except for the flyby return. We maybe at the end of the mission, if we have enough fuel, we can try and come back here and complete the orbit contract. So I thought it was just, oh, orbital spaceship. That just means we have to be in this Fairmont Woods, because the game is not specific like that. Nope, it decides to be specific this time. I should have read the fine print. Anyway, so we're not going to complete that contract this time, but we'll complete enough of the contracts, assuming that we don't completely fail this mission. Assuming we don't time warp past our maneuver nodes like I'm so fond of doing. So 2 minutes, 1 minute. Alright, and we can start the burn whenever. And we can also probably pop some science experiments while we're at it. I don't know if I set up an action group for those. I should have. I forget where I think the science experiments are stored in this service bay here. I'm not entirely sure. And maneuver. How close are we to our Eskios trajectory? Very far away from our Eskios trajectory. Actually, that's pretty close. So we're just gonna make sure our Eskios periaptus doesn't dip below like 160 or something like that. And that's pretty alright, I think. I might adjust the ascending descending nodes when I come in closer, but that's a good first preliminary thing. Alright, so that's good. Now, we just gotta fly by reticulum, and then just get captured in orbit by Eskios. So yeah, it's simple. Easy as pie. Which, there should be there shouldn't be, this is a terrible joke. There should not be another expression called easy as E, where it's like the slightly more obscure irrational number. And there we are, we have Elaan, plant flag on it, and we've recovered data from the service. And then we just have to transmit from around Eskios. So we should be able to knock those out really quickly. Alright, so I'm going to correct our inclination a little bit. And that's going to be close enough for our purposes. Like, we just need to get reasonably close to the equator. They can lower our periaps later. A couple minutes here. 3, 2, 1, and then fire up our nuclear engines for another round. And how are we doing on fuel in these drop tanks? We're doing pretty well. Like, we might not. The thing is, if we don't use it now, we lose. It's a use it or lose it situation, because we cannot take off. Like the drag profile. I mean, granted, I haven't tested it. We might be able to, but we should not risk taking off from Elaan with those fuel tanks full. Like, there's just too much risk on an already extremely risky mission. And our periaptus escape is still outside its atmosphere. Good, because if we fall into that, granted, we're in like the one spacecraft we built that has a hope of like being able to recover from an accidental fall into Eskios, but I still don't want to chance it. Alright, action groups for science. Transmit, transmit, transmit. Reset, reset. Reset. And I think we already have EVA report, but I'm going to try again, just in case. We got EVA report. So that's space around, what should we call it? Elaan. So now we need science for space around Eskios, and that will be our first contract complete of this entire mission, assuming I have read the fine print correctly. And okay, good, that is actually Eskios. I didn't misremember the name, because I've been known to do that with this planet pack. Alright, there we are. Welcome to Eskios. Enjoy your very brief stay. Oh, are we in the... Oh, that's the wrong action group. I accidentally activated the jet engine. Okay, transmit, transmit, transmit. We need to wait until we have communications again, because we are in a communications blackout. And there we are. We're on the other side of the planet now. Now, where is our communications going to come back in at? Okay, we need line of sight to that relay, it looks like. Okay, it just doesn't want to give us line of sight to anything. We have electric charge. We have an antenna. Just really weak. So yeah, so that's our only relay then. So we're not going to be able to talk to home for... Oh, there we are. We can talk to home. Okay, really quickly transmit everything. There we are. And now we've successfully completed our first and easiest contract. Now we just got to do... the Explore Reticulum is not going to be completed this mission because we talked about that earlier. And now we just got to do the flag planting and science data from service of... So now how much Delta V is it going to take us to do this? And again, this is a use it or lose it situation, so I'm not too worried about just being super efficient here. That's going to be 340, and ideally I don't want to use more than what we have in the drop tanks right now, which is 876 it looks like, and that's going to be 960. Okay, so we didn't actually save that much. Fortunately, we can aerobrake, or we can use a Skios to drop us into the atmosphere. So how many orbits until we have a good pass with? It's gonna be a long time. Okay, yeah, pretty much any encounter there is just gonna yeet us off into space. So we're going to do it the inefficient way of just retro burning and then hoping that we can survive aerobraking, which we should be able to in the very upper atmosphere. How high is the atmosphere on this place? So you want to be very careful with this atmospheric air braking. There's 65. Let's go down to 55 as a first attempt at air braking. And then just do a lot of air braking passes. 55. Any second now. 42, 3, 200,000, 100,000, 70. That's atmospheric. Then 55. Pretty much spot on within 100 meters. So we're gonna quick save. And we are going to attempt to aerobrake. Alright, on our way to our first aerobraking pass. And here we go. Oh, that's a cool shot. Dun 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 da da. Alright, so since we're going really fast, I'm actually going to try and burn the rest of the fuel in the drop tanks right now. And the drop tanks, I think, are extra drag, so I'm going to keep them attached through the rest. Just to make the future aerobraking passes a little bit more forgiving. And 55 was not low enough. Granted, we don't even know how we were slowing down because we burned the engine, so we might do another pass at 55 just in case. The engines are getting a bit toasty, but anyway, we are Jones. This was not a good... This is more of a periapsis burn pass than an actual aerobraking pass, testing-wise. I'm going to keep that little bit in the drop tanks just for periapsis adjustment. Oh, our periapsis is already down to 48, so that'll be a good next attempt. So we killed about 500 meters per second of velocity. And we should be... And that should... I'm going to deploy our little air brakes here. Like, we have little wedge fins, elevons that act as our air brakes. They keep us stable in the hypersonic regime, because that was a problem, hypersonic regime stability, in earlier versions of this craft. That's not good. That is a lot of overheating. What's critical? No, 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 no. What was it? What exploded? The magnetometer. We can live without the magnetometer. Who needs a magnetometer? Like, what's the point of having a magnetometer? Well, science and profit. But who needs the magnetometer anyway? Like, if it was clipped outside the bay, that should be fine. The rest of the plane should be fine, because we're only at 84%. We're almost at periapsis. We're like 10 seconds away from periapsis. And we are slowing down at a reasonable pace. I hope to be below 4 kilometers per second on this pass, like to shed at least 100 meters per second. As you can see, our apoapsis is dropping significantly. Not as fast as I'd like it to, but it is dropping indeed. And we don't even really get close to overheating anything important. So I think I might actually drop my periapsis further. We also want to time it to come in, where was it? Where's the place that I had scouted out to land? I know, we want to time it to come over land. We want to find a cool, like, great, what exploded? What exploded? I heard something explode and I wasn't looking. And the map mode is being stupid again. And my OBS is frozen. Everything just stopped working all of a sudden. Like Kerbal, the plane, and OBS stopped working at exactly the same time. Graphene skin wrapper radiator. So we lost a couple radiators. It looked like they were the ones that were on this nose cone or the direct cycle turbojet. However, the thing is the direct cycle turbojet and this nose cone really love to burn off if those radiators aren't there. However, we don't need it. Like, who cares if our nuclear engine disintegrates on ascent? If anything, it'll make us more efficient, because we don't need that engine ever again after ascent. So it won't be as cool of a mission, but it'll still function. Our mission can succeed without that engine on ascent. Now, granted, on re-entry, it might get a little bit dicey. Alright, let's go down to, like, 45, 46 kilometers, something like that. 46. Yeah, 45, yeah. That'll work. Just a little bit more aggressive on the entry side of things. And if I remember right, it was either this caldera right here, like the big one, or something else on the other side of the planet that we wanted to approach and investigate through aerial means. And this little cluster of islands over here has a lot of really good flat areas for landing and taking off. So I do believe that's in our best interest to land in that location. So if we can, like, re-enter on this pass, which we're not going to be able to, that'd be great. Alright. Critical thermal percentage. Where's my the engineer? Okay, 75, 76. Alright. Here we go. 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 80, nope, okay, we're going back down again. Nope, we're going up again. 87, 88. Okay, as long as it doesn't get over 90. I wish something would be really cool to do is you could program alarms in for Kerbal Engineer. Like, you could have things change color and flash depending on, like, what percent it's at, and then you could have alarms that play. That'd be a really cool feature. Because, like, that's the one thing, in my opinion, Kerbal is missing, like, audible cues that something is going on. Like, you have all those scenes in the space movies where, like, alarms are going and they're pressing buttons, and, yeah, that would be very... I think that would be a fun thing. Like, you'd always want to be able to turn the alarm sounds off, and everything would be configurable. But I feel like that would be a really fun way to play Kerbal with, like, audible alarms. And our apoapsis has decreased significantly, below 400. Well, by the time we're out of the atmosphere, it's going to be below 400. And so we really should only need 2 more passes, I think. This next pass is going to get our apoapsis right above the atmosphere, if not all the way in. What explode? Stop! I keep forgetting my radiators explode during time warp. Okay, I'm not entirely sure which radiators exploded this time. So hopefully we still have enough radiators to complete a successful ascent. I need to remember to stop physics warping. Because physics warping, when you're outside the atmosphere, kills your radiators if they're at maximum capacity. This is not going well.